In this video, I'm going to be going over exactly how much dividend income I made in the month of July, and to analyze this, we're going to be jumping into a spreadsheet that I built called the Do-It-Yourself Investor Spreadsheet. We'll be looking at my investment dashboard, my dividend calendar, my daily dividend calendar. We'll also be looking at some things such as portfolio projections to see what my portfolio will look like 10, 20, or even 30 years from now. And like always, if you'd like to be able to download the spreadsheet and join a community of dividend investors, then you can head over to my Patreon page at the link in the description. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So we have a lot to discuss in this video, but I do want to go ahead and point out, if we take a look at how the S&P 500 has performed over the past month, it's up around 3%. So it's been a pretty good month for the market overall. My portfolio has been doing extremely well over the past few months as well. If we go ahead and come up here and zoom in just a little bit, you can see my current portfolio value at the time of this video sitting a little bit above 92,000. So I am inching closer and closer to that 100,000 mark. You can see my gain and loss is sitting at around 11.42%. But when you include the dividends I've received and also my realized gains, I'm sitting at around 15.6%, which is a net gain of around $13,000. So I'm very happy with the results so far with that. If we come over here, you can see my allocation. Currently, I'm in around 87% stocks with a cash position of around 13%. Now, my total holdings is currently sitting at 35, but if you've been watching the channel for a while now, you know that's actually something that I'm trying to reduce over the next few months. That's probably something that I'll do in this coming month, but I'll talk about that just a little bit later. If we come over here and look at my cost and market value chart, this is basically a way to see all of my investments and the cost versus the market value. So for example, you can see my Microsoft position right here. It looks like my cost is sitting at around $8,600, but the current market value of my investment is sitting at over $10,800. So this is just a great way to see how large the position is and how much you've seen in gains. Now, the next thing I want to point out is my growth in each position. And a lot of my positions have really exploded over the past few months. For example, you can see my AVGO Broadcom position. I'm now up nearly 77% on this position. So this has been a huge winner for me. This is a company I talked about months ago on the channel. I said I was buying it after performing some stock valuations, and it's performed extremely well short term, but I want to focus more on the long term. And again, I'll touch on that just a little bit later. Let's go ahead and look at some of these other positions. We can see Caterpillar, another huge winner for me. I'm up around 60% on this position. We also have Apple. I'm up around 41%, JP Morgan around 45%, Lowe's around 26%, Starbucks around 29.83%. There's a lot of other big winners as well. We have EPD up around 22%, Coca-Cola 30%, Microsoft 26%. We also have SJM, not a dividend stock that's talked about very often, but I'm up around 28% on that position as well. We also have the S&P 500, two S&P 500 funds essentially up around 15, 16, or 17%. We also have Visa, I'm up nearly 30%, Texas Instruments 10%, T. Rowe Price around 12%, Cisco 18%, Jefferies Financial, this is a company, again, not talked about a lot, but I really like them long term. I'm up around 16.51%. And then we have Apple. I've already mentioned this one. I'm up around 41.15%. So a lot of winners in my portfolio right now. Let's go ahead and look at some of these losers. We can see Verizon, which is a very small position in my portfolio, but I am down around 29%. I do have to say, after analyzing this company more, although I am down quite a bit, looking at the growth prospects of the company, I don't see a lot of free cash flow growth and very low dividend growth in the future, so this company may be on the chopping block. 3M, I'm currently down around 17%. Walgreens, again, it's kind of in the same boat as Verizon's. I see very slow growth for this company in the future, so again, it's on the chopping block. If we come over here, we can see I also own a little bit of MPW. This is, again, a very small position in my portfolio, but I'm down around 21.3% on this position. Now, let's go ahead and jump into my allocation just a little bit. I'll blow up this chart, and you can see by far my largest position right now is SCHD, one of my favorite dividend growth ETFs. It makes up around 26% of my dividend portfolio as of right now. Come here, we can see Microsoft, next largest position at around 11.7%. And then we have some other ETFs right here that currently make up around 6.4 and 6.3% of my portfolio. Now, my plans are in the coming month to sell out of both of these positions and allocate that capital back into SCHD. So I'm trying to reduce the positions in my portfolio and also focus more on dividend growth ETFs and dividend growth companies, because if you haven't watched the channel before, the end goal for this portfolio is to build a portfolio that will allow me to one day live off of dividend income. And I believe that the best way by far to do that is by investing into quality dividend growth companies, because they'll continue to increase the amount they pay out in dividends every single year. But other than that, we also have O. That's a fairly decent sized position at 5.5%. But again, most of these positions are currently sitting around 2 to 3 or maybe even 4%. So it is fairly well diversified. If we come down here, you can see I'm also tracking my allocation by industry. Now, one thing I would like to do is essentially get rid of this ETF industry and break it out into the actual industries, but for now I do just have them listed as ETFs. But ETFs make up around 32.3% of my portfolio. Technology fairly large at around 20.5%. We also have financials at around 16.4%, real estate sitting at 9.9%, consumer defensive 7.7%, consumer cyclical 6.3%. Then I have a couple of other smaller allocated industries as well, as you can see right here. Now, this is really important when we're looking at right here, future portfolio outlook, but we are going to come back and look at this just a little bit later in the video, so be sure to stick around. But what we all want to see is my dividend dashboard. How much dividend income did I make in the month of July? So I'll go ahead and zoom out and we can start talking about this. In the month of July, you can see right here, I made $186.58. So I'll go ahead and zoom in just a little bit, and you can see it was a little bit of a drawback from the previous month, but that's because I received my largest dividend payment ever from SCHD. And my total dividend income in the month of June was $329.33. So a little bit of a drawback, but I'm obviously still trending in the right direction. If we come up here, we can see my expected yearly dividend income starting to get closer to $3,000. My all-time dividend income now around $3,100. Average monthly dividends almost at $250. And the goal for my portfolio is to have a dividend yield of around 3.5%, so I'm sitting right at that. If we look at my dividend income by industry, I think this is a very important thing to track in your portfolio. If you aren't tracking it, you definitely should be, because you don't want to be receiving all of your dividend income from one place. But you can see ETFs make up around 33.5% of my dividend income, financials around 16.2%, consumer defensive 13.6%, real estate around 15.8%, and then technology, although it is a pretty large position, only makes up around 9.4% of my dividend income as of right now. Obviously, a lot of those companies have lower dividend yields, but they have phenomenal dividend growth rates a lot of the time, so we will see this continue to increase as the years go by. Come down here, we can see my projected annual dividend income. In September of 2022, it was sitting at around $1,345. Jump forward to now, it's almost at $3,000, so some phenomenal progress with my projected annual dividend income. You can see here my dividend yield on cost. For the most part, I do focus on investing into quality dividend growth companies, but the last chart I want to look at is my dividend income by stock. And you can see if we scroll down, SCHD is by far my biggest dividend payer. I receive around $832 as of right now every single year from SCHD. If we scroll up, we can see MO Altria Group, also one of my big dividend payers. I actually received a big dividend payment from them this month, but over the year I should expect to receive around $229 from them. Realty Income around $257, Microsoft $87, and for the most part it's fairly well diversified where I receive my dividend income from. So I'll go ahead and zoom back out for a second, and I do want to jump into my dividend calendar and my daily dividend calendar, but before we do that, I want to talk about what I bought this month. So if we jump back over to my investment dashboard, you can see I have a new note right here. I'll go ahead and zoom in just a little bit so you can see what it says, but basically it just says DCA into SCHD during periods of high valuation. Now, what does this mean? This basically means that I'm looking during periods of high valuation to dollar cost average into SCHD. And personally, I would make the argument that we are in a period of high valuation. Like I already pointed out, S&P 500 over the past month up around 3%. And if we look at it year to date, it's now up nearly 20%. And a lot of my favorite companies are now trading at much higher valuations than they were about a year ago. So let's take, for example, Visa stock. We can see Visa year to date currently up around 15.34%. And if we jump back over to my do-it-yourself investor toolkit, I'll blow up that growth chart again, and like I already pointed out, with my Visa position, I'm currently up around 30%. So it's trading at quite a bit higher than when I originally bought in. So the question is, why would I dollar cost average into SCHD when I feel like it's a period of high valuation? And I do think that is a very good question, and I'm going to answer it real quick. And this is actually something that I talked about on my Twitter account the other day. I'll go ahead and show you the tweet, but basically what I said is I don't know what the share price of stocks I own will do short term, but I do know this. Long term, the underlying fundamentals of the company, such as free cash flow, will continue to improve and strengthen. thus leading to long-term share price appreciation. So when you're looking at quality companies, we take Visa for example. Short term, I really don't know what the share price could do over the next month, 6 months, or even the next year. Something could happen in the global economy that could trigger a bear market. But as a long-term dividend investor, I'm looking for companies that will long-term be able to increase revenue, be able to increase free cash flow, and be able to increase their dividend payments year over year. So for example, if we look at Visa, we'll jump into the financials. If we look at the income statement right here and look at the growing revenues over the past decade, and it's been phenomenal. If we scroll down a little bit further, look at the net income for Visa over the past decade, again, phenomenal growth. And if we jump over to the statement of cash flows, this is what I love to see more than anything else as an investor. If I scroll down, I want to look at the free cash flow per share. I think this is an extremely important metric. You look at where they were in September of 2013, 0.98 free cash flow per share. Jump forward to September of 2022, they're sitting at $8.58, and for the trailing 12 months, $9.05. So they have seen explosive free cash flow per share growth. And keep in mind, dividends are paid out of free cash flow. So if you want to find a company that can increase the amount they pay in dividends year over year, you need to find a company that can increase their free cash flow per share year over year. So for me, investing into SCHD during periods of high valuation, I don't know necessarily what SCHD will do short term, but I do feel confident in them long term, in their holdings being able to increase free cash flow year over year, and also in turn being able to grow their dividend payments year over year. So with all of that being said, during periods of high valuation, I do think that's something I will continue to do. Now let's go ahead and keep moving forward and look at my dividend calendar. And if you aren't using a dividend calendar to track your dividend payments over time, you're definitely missing out, because it's a great way to track your dividend payments month over month, as you can see right here, but you can also track the total amount you've received from each position and also see the dividend growth month after month. So for example, we're looking at Realty Income right here. Because they increase the amount they pay out in dividends and I reinvest my dividend payments and also add capital to them, we can see every single month I'm receiving larger and larger dividends from Realty Income. So in January of 2022, my dividend payment from Realty Income was $5.83, but jump forward to this month, it's now sitting at $21.49. So let's go ahead and look at my dividend payments in the month of July. I'll go ahead and push this over here, and you can see I received almost a $20 payment from Coca-Cola. Altria Group, stock ticker MO, was my largest dividend payment at $57.21. From Realty Income, like I just mentioned, a $21.50 payment. Regions Financials, $3.83. $18.48 from one of my favorite real estate investment trusts, Vici. $21.58 from SPY. Scroll down a little bit more, $10.21 from JP Morgan. $8.54 from JEPI, which is a very small position in my portfolio, only about 1 to 1.5%. Then we can see Cisco around $1.59 and MPW around a $24 dividend payment. So those were the dividend payments that I received in the month of July. Let's go ahead and move over and look at my daily dividend calendar. I'll zoom out a little bit more so you can see exactly what's going on. But this is basically a way to see how much I received in dividend income on each individual day. So for example, here's my 2022 daily dividend calendar. You can see the highest day of dividend payment in 2022 was $42.11, but my highest day so far in 2023 was $154.36, which was last month when I received my SCHD dividend payment. But I'll go ahead and zoom in so we can see what days I received dividends. It looks like on the 3rd around $23.50. 6th and 7th were decent days, $18.50, $8.54. And it looks like July 10th was the day I received my MO dividend payment, $57.21. Come over here and you can see on the 13th and 14th, both above $20 days. We then go a little bit of a stretch without any dividend payments. Then I received a small one on the 26th, but a pretty good day on the 31st with a $31.79 dividend payment. Now the last thing that I do want to talk about, and I mentioned it on the investment dashboard earlier, but as I want to be able to project what my dividend portfolio will look like in the future. But before we do that, I want to quickly say thank you to Seeking Alpha for sponsoring this video. Seeking Alpha is my favorite stock research platform, and I use it in nearly all of my videos. Obviously, we can see things like historical returns, some really important data right here that I look at a lot, but I also love digging into the dividend metrics. I can see things like dividend yield, historical yield, or dividend growth, dividend safety, and I love looking at that dividend history. And of course, I take a lot of time to dig into the financial statements as well, such as the income statement, balance sheet, and the statement of cash flows. But one of my favorite features is looking at the charting. So for example, I can select the metrics that I want to look at, but I can also add comparable companies. So for example, if I wanted to compare them to INTC, I could just plug in them right here and update the chart, and we can see how the returns have been for each of them. I actually just talked to the Seeking Alpha team the other day, and they are offering a new coupon at my link in the description. You can get Seeking Alpha Premium and Alpha Picks for only $249 instead of the usual $438. So in other words, you can get Alpha Picks for $10 instead of $199. So if you're interested, be sure to check that out at the link in the description. Okay, so we're back on my investment dashboard, and again, right here, we're looking at my future portfolio outlook. So I'll go ahead and zoom in and scroll down, and all of this data is derived from our portfolio projection tab. So I'll go ahead and come back over here, and you can see our portfolio projection tab right here that we're looking at. Essentially, again, this is a way to project what my portfolio will look like in the future. So we need to look at the assumptions I'm making. My starting portfolio size is currently sitting at around $92,000. I'm trying to contribute around $2,500 every single month to this portfolio. So you can see I can choose between monthly and lump sum, but I currently have monthly selected. My starting dividend yield sitting right at 3.5%. Now the other two assumptions I'm making is a price growth rate of 7% and a dividend growth rate of 7%. Both of those are actually not as aggressive as a lot of people would think, because dividend ETFs like SCHD over the past decade have had a price growth rate of 12% and a dividend growth rate of over 11%. So I'm actually being somewhat conservative with these projections. Now I'm also assuming that my cost of living currently sits at around $4,250 a month. Assuming inflation is 2%, we can see in 30 years, my cost of living is going to be closer to $7,700. So to be able to live off of dividend income, I need to get my dividend payments on a monthly basis above this black line, and I need my dividend growth rate to be good enough to stay above the cost of living as well. So we do have to watch out for inflation at that 2% rate. So I built out a live off of dividend analysis to see exactly how long it would take me to be able to live off of dividend income. And you can see where this red line crosses the black line. That's the point in which I can live off of my dividend payments. So let's go ahead and dig into this just a little bit. I'll zoom in. And we're currently looking at year 0. I'll scroll down. We'll see how far away I am from being able to live off of my dividend payments. It looks like after 10 years, I'm still not there. 15 years, I'm still not there. But look right here. Near the end of year 17, I will one day be able to live off of dividend payments as my monthly dividend surpasses my monthly cost of living. You can see at that point, my monthly dividends would be sitting at around $6,090 and my cost of living sitting at $6,050. And here's what's really cool. At this point, the account value of my dividend portfolio will be sitting at over $2 million, but the vast majority of that is coming from all gains. The total contribution would have only been around $627,000. But here's what's even more impressive. Let's scroll all the way down and look at our 30-year period. At the end of our 30-year period, if I reinvest dividends over that entire time period, my account value could be sitting at over $8 million. And here's what's my favorite part. My monthly dividends could be sitting at around $23,346. So that's absolutely phenomenal. If we want to break it down just a little bit more, we can jump back over to my investment dashboard to get a quick glimpse of what this could look like. And keep in mind, you can see what this looks like whether you reinvest dividends or don't reinvest dividends. So for example, let's say we don't reinvest dividends. You can see I selected it here. After about 5 years, I can expect to receive over $10,000 in dividend income every year. But if I do reinvest dividends over that time period, it's sitting at around $12,000. Over a 15-year time period, let's say I don't reinvest dividends, I'd be receiving around $36,000 a year, but if I do reinvest dividends, I'll be seeing over $52,000 a year in dividend income. At the end of our 30-year period, if I never reinvest dividends, I could still be receiving over $126,000 in dividend income with a portfolio size of over $3.6 million. But if I do reinvest dividends like we just saw, the end results are absolutely phenomenal. It's a great example of the snowball effect. After the 30-year period, I could be receiving over $280,000 a year in dividend income with a portfolio value of over $8 million. And that is exactly why you should reinvest dividends, but also focus on investing into companies that increase the amount they pay in dividends year over year. This is exactly how Warren Buffett was able to achieve a yield on cost with Coca-Cola of over 50% by focusing on investing into quality dividend growth companies that continue to increase dividend payments year over year. So there you go. There's a quick update on my personal dividend portfolio. Again, the end goal is to be able to live off of dividend payments. If you'd like to be able to download this spreadsheet and join a community of dividend investors, then you can head over to my Patreon page at the link in the description. I also have a monthly newsletter that I send out for free, going over more in depth my personal dividend portfolio. So if you'd like to sign up for that, you can also check out my link in the description. Again, thank you to Seeking Alpha for sponsoring this video. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Seeking Alpha is my favorite stock research platform, and I use it in nearly all of my videos. Obviously, we can see things like historical returns, some really important data right here that I look at a lot, but I also love digging into the dividend metrics. I can see things like dividend yield, historical yield, or dividend growth, dividend safety, and I love looking at that dividend history. And of course, I take a lot of time to dig into the financial statements as well, such as the income statement, balance sheet, and the statement of cash flows. But one of my favorite features is looking at the charting. So for example, I can select the metrics that I want to look at, but I can also add comparable companies. So for example, if I wanted to compare them to INTC, I could just plug in them right here and update the chart, and we can see how the returns have been for each of them. I actually just talked to the Seeking Alpha team the other day, and they are offering a new coupon at my link in the description. You can get Seeking Alpha Premium and Alpha Picks for only $249 instead of the usual $438. So in other words, you can get Alpha Picks for $10 instead of $199. So if you're interested, be sure to check that out at the link in the description.